Hello class and welcome to another lecture. Today we're starting the minor prophets. This is going to be our last unit in the year, but that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of work to do. There are 12 minor prophets altogether. We're not going to cover every single one of them in great detail. We're actually going to kind of go pretty fast because we really only have about a month left of school. Praise Jesus, right? All right, so Hosea is what we're going to start with today. Now Hosea is kind of awkward. You heard me read actually some of it yesterday at the beginning, and it's got some cringy parts. Let's say that, okay? It's got some parts where you're just like, oh, geez, why in the world would God ask Hosea to marry a prostitute, right? What is going on here? Why would he name his children loved and not loved and my goodness, right? And not my people and all these things. So Hosea, his whole letter really is what it is. It's a letter. It really kind of shows the expressions of God's love, God's anger, God's agony, and God's despair. So there's this kind of weird mix of like, there's this heartbrokenness that God has, but then at the same time, God is restoring all things. And so there's a lot of Jesus moments in this, flash forwarding to a time when God is going to make all things new through his son, Jesus Christ. But that doesn't happen necessarily in the time of Hosea. Now, Hosea, his name actually means salvation, which may seem kind of odd because it seems like there's some despair and some judgment here, but his name means salvation. And oftentimes in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, people's names have that deeper symbolic meaning that kind of almost come true, right? He was a member of the northern kingdom during the time right before the northern exile by the Assyrians. And so this was a tumultuous time. This was not an easy time. He has children to a woman named Gomer. God calls him to marry a prostitute. And you're like, ugh, geez, really? And then he has 3 children to her. They have 3 children together. And he names them symbolic names to show of God's judgment against Israel. So we got Jezreel, against the Jehu and all of what he's doing. And so there's all these just kind of, imagine being named that, right? Imagine being named not loved, right? Can you imagine that? I mean, Ruhamah, right? Like that's such a unfortunate name. And so, yeah, he began his reign during the king of Jeroboam II. Now, during this time, Israel, this is the northern kingdom here, they basically felt like they were untouchable. They had a very strong military. They had lots of wealth and prosperity. And the king, especially, he was like, man, look at all I've done. Right? He's kind of like a god here on earth he made himself to be. But they were devout Baal worshipers, pagan worshipers. No one was worshiping God for the majority. And the kings were certainly evil. And they were the example to everyone. So most people were following the king's lead of Baal worship. Now, Baal worship, again, was the popular form in the land. So you're going to see in this letter lots of calling out of Baal worship, particular. Gomer, so again, she was a prostitute, a harlot. And Gomer and her children, again, are symbols of Israel's unfaithfulness. Now, what you're going to notice, too, in your reading yesterday, I don't know if you caught this, that their names are not going to stay that way forever. God is a God who changes people's names. And not just a name, right? Not just like he doesn't just like say, oh, now you're no longer Bob, you're Bill now. Like that means something. No, he changes your identity. It's not just a name change. Like now you have a new license and a birth certificate. No, you have a new identity, a new purpose, a new understanding, a new core of who you are, right? So he's saying, listen, these children, yes, it's unfortunate that they're named this, right? But that's not going to be a forever thing. That in fact, God is going to redeem. God is going to do what only God can do and bring people back to a place of restoration and wholeness and perfection as they were created, as the first people were created to be in harmony with God before sin. And so God is going to wipe that away. So that's good news because it's not the end of the story. This is that Jesus moment of a God who says, I am going to continue pursuing you no matter what. And there's nobody so far removed. And that's going to do it for Hosea. And the next one, we're going to be talking about Amos. Amos was a shepherd an ordinary dude called by God to be a prophet. All right, until the next one.